All right, welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Perspective Podcast. I go by the name of Damiso Josie alongside the lovely
Stacey Sanderson.
How are we doing, Stacey?
Doing well. How are you?
I would be doing better, but I have learned my lesson that I have to stop making bets with you, and maybe the Eagles will actually lose this week. So I'm not going to make that bet this time.
You don't have to make bets with me. Just don't make bets against the Eagles, and you'll be fine.
I really want you to take control of this podcast, though. That's where I'm coming from. So how about this? If the Cowboys win today, they play Green Bay. It's tough. We're going to leave the Eagles out of this.
All right.
If the Cowboys win, you got the next podcast.
That's a deal. Go Aaron Rodgers.
All right. So hopefully we can put Aaron Rodgers on the sideline for a little bit and get this W today. Last time, I want to thank Regine Druitt. She's doing well. She is a little fender bender after our podcast. So, Regine, if you're listening to this, get well quickly. But we did talk about the law of attraction with Regine last week. What do you think about that podcast and this concept of the law of attraction?
Well, first of all, I think she's an amazing young lady. I think that she really knows what she wants, and to have that in that age is phenomenal because some kids just aren't there yet. So you should be extremely proud of your goddaughter. I must say granddaughter, sorry. Goddaughter.
I'm not that old yet. The guests that we have today might be that old, but I'm not that old yet. But I agree with you with the exception of the relationship piece. I think we need to fix that. But
her relationship idea?
Yeah, her idea.
Of having an age on that wedding and
right,
but that'll come. I mean, that'll come with time.
I guess, if you say so. We did talk about vision boards, and my father made a comment on the website about vision boards, and I guess this is his first time of hearing a vision board. It did make me want to go back and change my vision board. I haven't got to the point yet where I'm actually cutting pictures out and all that stuff yet, but I am going to revisit it and hopefully set some new goals and things. How's your vision board going?
It's going. I haven't cut anything out yet, but I have everything written down that I want to look for. And then I also decided that I'm going to do one with at least my two older kids. And try just, even if it's 2 or 3 things that they can put on there for right now, something tangible for them to see and to shoot for. My little one, she's all over the place, so she doesn't need a vision board. Her dreams, I mean, she acts on it now.
That's awesome. I saw a video on Facebook of your daughter dancing. Did she get that from her mother?
Maybe just the face she makes, but not the rhythm. I mean, it's pretty bad, but she's got rhythm, I don't.
That's awesome. Please continue to leave your comments and questions on the website. But we have a special guest in the building today, somebody that I consider a dear friend of mine. I work with him in Egg Harbor Township, former teacher. Amongst other things, he has a show, which I'm going to let him talk about. But I would like to welcome Mr. Gary Monterosso to the show. Thanks for coming.
Damiso, thank you so much, Stacey, for having me here today. Very much appreciated.
Definitely a pleasure. This is going to be an interesting podcast. I promise you that.
And we're going to be dry. No beer in the show, right?
No beer. No.
We're just be drinking water today.
Just water right now. We'll bring out the beer when the game starts, but not right now. But Gary, you have a show called What's On Tap. Can you give a little description of what that show is about?
Absolutely. What's On Tap is a show that currently is produced by SNJ Today out of Millville, New Jersey. A company that's been in existence for about 5 years, doing nightly newscasts, which is now really exploding, taking off. We hired a lot of the NBC 40 personnel in order to get that South Jersey market coming in. But in terms of What's On Tap, it's kind of spun off as an internet show that I did called Still Crazy After All These Beers. And Paul Simon, thank you for not suing us. We really appreciate that. But we started as an internet radio show for about 3 or 4 months, and then the company came to me and said, we'd like to add the TV portion of it to the mix. What do you think? And I said, well, I'd be honored, thank you. So they bought a used bar, which they use as our set, and I'm using a co-host. My co-host is Tara Nurin, who has experience at Comcast and now writes for Forbes, among other publications. She's traveling all over the place. Sometimes I think she's in witness protection. I can never catch up with the girl.
That is true.
The show's doing well. Currently we're on 2 TV stations, SNJ Today 22 out of Cumberland County and also WMGM, which covers much of southern New Jersey. But that relationship, the relationship with MGM is changing. It's going to be severed in about a month because MGM was again sold. So we're looking to expand our footprint, and I believe by the first of the year we'll probably be in all of southern New Jersey, up above Trenton into Philadelphia, maybe as far as Reading.
Oh, that's
Down
awesome.
south is just a little bit past Dover, Delaware.
Right.
So we'll be hitting 3 million homes.
Awesome. Well, this podcast, we're going to talk about opportunity, and I want to get into when you first started that journey into to what's on tap and things of that nature. But let's just talk about the transition, because I know you went from being an educator, and then you kind of were doing this what's on tap back and forth, and now you're in a space where I guess you're doing that full time. Now you're a retired educator, and sort of. I mean, you're still teaching people, I'm sure. It's just in your blood, but you're making that transition into that particular career. But you went from the internet radio thing to TV. Talk about that transition. Like, did you find it to be difficult? Was it awkward being in front of camera? I know you. I know the answer to this question, but I'm trying to get the people to understand.
Sure. Actually, no, it wasn't awkward because I'd done some TV. I will say to you that my first TV experience was not the most smooth run in terms of how my performance was. I was nervous as all heck. I really was. And that was on PBS. And it was a live show, as a matter of fact. So live was very intimidating at the time.
Listen, don't say that, because we're trying to do a live podcast. You're scaring Stacey over
I'm
there.
not scared, but I just even going back to the first one we did, just the fear of this being in front of me. So I can't even imagine having a camera and then live.
It was a bit intimidating at first, yeah, exactly. But I got used to it, and then I ended up doing some other guest spots, which were pre-recorded, thank goodness. And I enjoyed it. But let's face it, Damiso, when the station came to me and said, we're going to go HD, this is not a face for HD. So I tried to surround myself with good-looking guests, you see, such as you.
Oh, thank you.
For example.
Right. Appreciate that. My mother said the camera only takes what it sees. So listen, it is what it is. I think you're handsome. If that counts for anything.
That makes one of us. Thank you.
So we're talking about opportunity. One of the first things I want to talk about is, one, recognizing opportunity when it presents itself, and how do you take advantage of those things. So, Stacey, I know you talked about off air, you're talking about this podcast and taking about the opportunity. Can you just walk everyone through the process that you went through and why you chose to be a part of this lovely podcast?
Well, I don't think I recognized the right opportunities that had come along for a while. So I jumped on many work at home things, and I thought, this is going to be my saving grace, this is going to be what helps my family. But I didn't have the right perspective going into it. I was looking at it as easy money or whatever. And when you don't have passion about something, it's not going to go anywhere. So it fizzled out after a few months, and I kind of just put everything on the shelf. Like, I'm just going to do the stay-at-home mom thing. When my kids go back to school, I'm going to substitute teach. That's going to be my top line. I can't go any further than that. I was really pushing myself down, and I kind of turned off all ideas coming in. How you and I got to this point was, you had made a post on Facebook about, if you wanted a true assessment of yourself, look at your children. And it was a little more in depth than that. And I reached out to you and asked if I could share that on my little blog page. So we started talking a little bit. And when you called me and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this podcast, would you be interested? My first response was, no, thanks. But I didn't say that. And you told me to think about it for a little bit and take some time. And I decided that I'm just going to say yes on the phone now. Because if I gave myself that time, I would have come up with too many reasons why I shouldn't do it.
Gary, how about you in terms of just opportunities in general? You can talk from an education perspective or from your other career. Like, how do you recognize opportunities, and what made you want to leap in that direction?
That's curious, yeah. I was mentioning to Stacey prior to the start of this podcast that as I got, let's talk about the writing and the beer part of it. I was writing for a newspaper reviewing beer festivals, which I think was read by maybe 25 people.
Kind of like this podcast.
You've got to crawl before you walk, though. Okay? I recall that. And I really got a kick out of doing that. And, you start to network yourself. Hopefully, if you're doing a good job and people recognize that, maybe other opportunities will open for you.
Sure.
And I was mentioning to Stacey, I would knock on 10 doors and 9 people would tell me to get lost and 1 would let me in. Well, in 25, 26 years, those numbers have reversed pretty much. For me, the biggest thing was fear. I was afraid of rejection. And then I realized that fear is just an acronym. Fear could stand for, forget everything and run, FEAR, or face everything and rise. And I opted for the latter.
Very interesting.
So I realized that the word no didn't hurt me.
Right.
No, it was business and it wasn't a personal thing.
Right. I think a lot of people are afraid of that word no and fear. But if they realize that you really are going to end up in the same, either going to end up in the same spot that you are right now, or you're going to win.
Exactly.
So you really don't have anything to lose. So I've learned to just ask. The worst thing you can say is no. All right, I'm back in the same spot that I am right now.
Exactly.
Say yes, then there's another opportunity that hopefully presents itself. For me, I look at my value system. We talked about values in the previous podcast, and that kind of determines how I go about looking for opportunity. I'm all constantly looking for opportunities. This podcast is an example of this. I didn't have a dream to have a podcast. It wasn't on my vision board. It wasn't any of those things. But I saw there was a space and opportunity, and I saw Stacey's post, and I saw some of the things that she was doing, and it kind of lined up with my values. So I said, all right, there's a space for me to go in there and try it. Worst you can say is no. So I said, all right, let me ask her, and then thank God she said yes, and then we're going on this journey together. But I think a lot of people...
Thank God you asked me, so.
Oh, well. I feel good about that. Well, thank God, everybody. But I think a lot of people are holding themselves back in terms of opportunities because of that fear of rejection. Also, they're not looking at their value system and understanding that there's opportunities that are out there all the time. We just got to be in a space to recognize them, which is really, really crucial.
Well, it goes back to that mindset. If you're in that negative mindset, you're not going to even see opportunities coming your way. You're not looking for them, and they're not going to find you all the time. So you have to try to flip that mindset first.
Right.
And actively look for them. They're not all going to come to you.
Right. I think also the key part that you hit on, it's not going to be perfect. It may not be perfect. Whatever opportunity that you vision having. Like, again, this podcast isn't perfect. It's by far perfect, but it's an opportunity that we're going after. And I think a lot of people are waiting for that perfect opportunity, and it may never ever come. So when I look through opportunities, lining up with my value system, I believe my gift is service, and then I just look for those areas. So I think it's important to find what your gift is and what you feel your talent base is, so that you can look for those particular opportunities. I'm going to put you on the spot, Gary, and you may not be ready for this question. I know what my response for you would be, but what would you say that your gift would be?
Boy. Wow,
you think about that too, Stacey.
That is
because
a
you're
difficult
next.
one. What my gift would be. I love people. I love relating to people. I think in the 5-6 years that you and I worked together, hopefully you saw that I really enjoy being with kids. I enjoy teaching, the social interaction. For me, teaching was more than just being in the classroom and telling them, well, this is how Excel works, and you have to do this and hit that key and so on. But it was the interpersonal relationship that I think created with the kids. I tried to anyway. I would be just as likely to high five them walking down the hall as anything else. Education to me was more than just being in the classroom. It's the whole thing. So I guess the fact that I love people, I love working with people and being with people, is maybe the gift that I could share. I don't want to pat on the back for this, but a couple of weeks ago, I was driving to the supermarket. And there was a long entrance to the supermarket. I happened to see an elderly man sitting on the corner holding up a sign that said, homeless, please help. And cars just completely driving past him. On the way back, I bought him food. I bought a box of crackers. I bought him a juice drink. And I pulled over to the side of the road and gave it to him. Came up to my window, and he said, thank you, sir, I'm going to be able to eat today. Now, was he really homeless? I don't know. And my neighbor saw me do that. And kind of read me out for it. He goes, didn't you realize this guy's not homeless? He's just looking to get a buck. And I said to him, can I take that chance? And I felt I couldn't take the chance.
Right.
What did it cost me? $5.
Right.
Big deal.
Big deal, right. Sure.
And what if he really did need that?
I think we have our faith in humanity story right there.
I think we jumped the gun there, but definitely that's it for this week.
That is awesome.
I don't know.
No, you make a great point.
And I think a lot of people have that opinion anymore about the homeless and stuff like that. People feel like they're out there sometimes just, it's easier to panhandle than to go to work. But like you said, it was a $5 gamble. That man ate, and you don't know whether that was his only meal for days. It's not up to us to figure that out.
Well,
it's the generosity in your heart.
Plus he had an NY hat on, which means he likes the Yankees. So that was another fact. No,
we're not talking about the other NY team that you're playing on right now.
This was a Yankee hat. It wasn't a Met hat or anything like that. So I think when he came over, I said, Yankees or Jay-Z, which is it? He goes, well, actually both. That's cool.
But that's one of the things I recognize about you, Gary, is that I do believe that your gift is helping people and children. And I think that's a reflection of all the spaces that you're in. Even with what's on tap and the things that you're doing, you're providing a service for people.
Still educating.
Right, you're still
Yes.
educating. And to me, I always say that, my gift of service, the vehicle that I'm in is irrelevant. Whether I'm an assistant principal, whether I'm on a podcast, whether I'm teaching, to me that's irrelevant. I just want to help the world. And my mentality is I want to give the world so much that it feels like it can't live without me. We talk about, Malcolm Gladwell has a book, and he talks about the tipping point. And it is at the moment in a business where, the floodgates open. You go from a fad to, now you're a legit business. And I'm trying to get into that space, through my opportunities and things where everything's a tipping point. And I think I'm almost at that point with the nonprofit now that we're international, and hopefully things will happen to me in the educational field. Hopefully things will happen from the podcast. But trying to move into spaces that, the world feels like it needs me more than I need the world. And I think you're getting to that point, and you have gotten to that point in terms of your gift and the things that you're when you're moving and shaking and doing things of that nature.
And I'm so happy to say, and I think you know this, but I'm going to be back in the classroom starting in January because Cumberland County College hired me to teach classes on beer appreciation.
Really? Where was that class when I went to college?
Now,
Maybe
listen.
you would have gone a little further.
Stacey, I don't know if that would have been a good idea for you.
40 years ago, I used to have to sneak it into class, and now they're paying me to bring it. So I want you to know that.
That's a class. I love it. I might be in your class. Watch out.
But that's going to be a trip for me. I'm really, really looking forward to it because it combines things that I'm so passionate about. Being in the classroom and teaching, educating, which, as you said, I'm doing on the show, hopefully, and the love of good beverage.
I've learned a lot from you on the show. I wasn't a
You learn how not to do things, and you're incorporating them now into this. You're making your podcast better than my show.
I guess you want to put it that way. But I definitely did learn a lot from you. Stacey, let's talk about what you believe to be your gift. I know it's a tough question.
You guys stole my answers.
Well,
I'm just on a smaller scale. I think that I definitely want to help people. I don't know if I'm ready to take on the world yet, but that wouldn't be a bad thing if it happened. But I'm happy if I just help one person out. And I want my kids to be happy, but I also see the kids in school, and I want to bring them my best because you never know what's going on behind closed doors with kids, and I'm sure you guys have seen way more than I have. So I just want to make sure that when I'm filling in even for the day, that I'm not dropping the ball for their teacher and making sure that the kids
But
are
Stacey,
okay.
what is your world? You don't have to, when we say your world can consist of X number of people.
It can.
I mean, you've got to start at home.
Yep.
Okay, so
Oh,
my
well,
home.
let's not look there first.
You know what I'm saying when I'm saying home. When I'm saying home, okay. Now my home for 25 years was Egg Harbor Township, so those were my people, the people that I'm relating to, plus my family and friends. You see, now that's changed. I'm no longer in Egg Harbor Township, but I have, in a sense, a different set of friends that I'm working with. But you start by reaching them or trying to reach them.
Yeah, and I'm just stepping out of my physical home and going back out into the working world and stuff like that. But I definitely want to help as many people as I can. I may not be the best person to do it, but I want to at least try.
I think you're selling yourself short.
I know.
But we tend to do that, don't we? We tend to do that. Yeah.
And she, not to talk like you're not here, but you make it sound like you don't bring things to podcasts, and you always ask me questions, and you don't know how much I've learned from you in the process.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. It's times that we text a lot and things of that nature, and so I'll look at it, and times I'm not even thinking about the podcast, and it's like, I need to get my stuff together because I don't want to let Stacey down. She's got all these things already listed, and some things that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast in terms of the fundraisers and things of that nature. So it kind of brings me back and say, okay, I need to make sure that I'm at 100% because I know that Stacey's on her game, and I want to make sure that I'm 100%.
But I feel exactly the same way because you are doing so many things. I mean, you're just everywhere at once. I don't know how we have the same 24 hours, and you're getting so much more done than I am, that I feel like this is the one thing I'm doing outside of my family and home that I need to invest more time in it to help you out.
I mean, I feel like on the outside looking at it, I can see that it looks like I'm doing a whole lot, and people always say I'm taking on too much more than I, they think I can handle. But to me, I don't see it that way because, again, it goes back to my value system and what I believe my gift is at, and helping people. And I just, again, continuously, constantly looking for spaces to help people in any way. So when I'm on the road, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm, in the classroom teaching a history lesson or whatever, whether I'm visiting different places, every single day I just look for spaces to help people and kind of just let God, carry me to these different places. It's not like I'm overly stressed out and have to do all these things. It's coming natural to me at this point. So talk about that tipping point. Even in myself, I'm at a point where I was like, all right, well, I need to prepare for a podcast. Let me write some notes down, and this just go off the top of my head. It is what it is. So it's about being organized, and it's about living within your purpose. Which brings me to my next point. Excuse me. I think also people need to understand that it's important what's in your toolbox, what's in your skill set that's going to allow you to seize opportunity and take you to the next level. I'll share a short little story. I still play video games. I'm 40 years old, I still play video games, yes, I know. But I used to play this game called Super Mario Brothers, and it was on Nintendo. And
At least you're relevant. We know what you're talking about.
Right. Well, all our viewers may not, our listeners may not. But I was to play this game, and it had like 14 levels to it. And I always get to level 13, and I could never, ever beat this game. And I was like, why can't I beat this game? And I just put it down and stopped trying. Then it dawned on me. I realized that I was using the same tools and the same skills that I learned on level 1, trying to beat level 14, and it just wasn't getting done. So I had to go back and try to resharpen my skills and things of that nature in order to get to the next level. A lot of us are not in the position where we want in our life because we're still using tools that we used when we were 13, 14 years old as an adult. And that, those skills are not, those tools are not going to be good enough for us to get to that next level. So sort of ties into the self-assessment piece. Analyzing what your skill set is and trying to find those areas where you lack and trying to build those areas so that you can move to that next level. So Gary, in your professional career, let's just talk about the TV show. What's if someone is aspiring to be on television or in that industry, what are the necessary tools and skills that they need to acquire or have in order to be successful?
Television, as you know, is a different animal than radio, first of all, and what I learned in doing the show for the last 3 years is, I guess, how to multitask a bit better, because I may be interviewing you, Damiso, or you, Stacey, but I've also got an eye geared toward the floor manager. I've got to be cognizant of how much time I have for a segment, when to go to commercial. You're gifted, you're blessed here doing a podcast because you're not married to the clock,
right,
as I mentioned. So I guess knowing the subject, being able to discuss a subject rationally within a set time frame is so key. And again, the ability to take direction from so many different resources out there, being aware of that. It's a difficult thing.
Absolutely.
Balancing it anyway. Yeah.
Especially within that time frame, and everything moves so fast.
I mean, we would create similar. Yours is much more extensive now. You have such notes, so fantastic. I create, again, a template, a floor plan as to what we're going to be doing. How many minutes we're going to be spending on this particular segment, the layout, blocking, blah, 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 what we're going to talk about. And my co-host, Tara Norton, and I will get together during the course of the week and discuss that. These are the points we want to make. I'll create cliff notes, if you will, and email them to her or she to me. And so we know the direction that the interview is going to take. So you guys are recognizing this. There's a lot of prep work. So as you said, the ability to organize oneself before you ever go on camera. I say that when I go on camera, my work is over.
Right.
The easiest part of my day is taping the show at this point.
Right.
But it's prepping for it.
Right.
Contacting your guests and making sure X number of times. You're going to show up, here's the address, this is the time I need you there, bring this. Don't wear green because you're going to bleed in the background, the whole thing, right? So there's so much involved, and quite frankly, doing the show is a 7-day-a-week thing.
Right. I look at those skills, and I also look at parenthood in the same way, and having that prep work for the day, and being organized, and getting your family ready for that particular day. So I'm going to go into the Sanderson-Dick household. It is Monday morning. You're about to get
chaos.
You're about to get ready for. Actually, let's go to Sunday. Do you guys plan what your week's going to be out before, or you just kind of just go with the flow?
We fly by the seat of our pants all the time. Even when there is plans, we're still like running out the door with one shoe on, one shoe in our hand. I'm not great at organizing plans, and because there's always something that happens. So if I make plans, I've done it where I've in detail. This is how things are going to run this week. The first hour that we go, something throws a rod in it, and we're already off our schedule. So I've learned to try to just go with the flow a little bit. We make it to things on time most of the time. most of the time. But
you were a little late today, but
yeah, and I didn't have my little one today either. But
let me stop messing with you. Let's just talk about in terms of being a mother and a wife, the skills and the tool set that you need to have to run a great family. I want to go into this space because a lot of people that do listen are single parents and are struggling to get their house in order. Never mind the relationship piece. Just talk about the skill set that you think parents need to have in order to have a functioning house. Even though as crazy your house may be, it's functioning. Your kids are healthy. You're happy. Everything's good. What are the skill sets that you think that parents should develop or have in order to be successful?
Like Gary said, multitasking is a big one, because with 3 kids and 3 things of homework and 3 sets of papers coming home, you're signing one, you're doing pre-algebra with one, I'm doing a 1+1 with another one, getting dinner ready, making sure all the doctor's appointments are done, driving who's got band practice in the morning, who's got club after school. So it's a lot of stuff on your plate, and sometimes you're doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. Not maybe doing them well, but you're doing them and they're getting done. Just being able to relax. I think some people are so tied to their schedules that they don't know really how to adjust when there's an audible call. Right when you're running out the door and one of them gets sick everywhere. You have to be able to take a step back sometimes, breathe, relax, and go with the flow.
So you answered a question that you asked me earlier about how do I go about doing all these things. You're doing the exact same thing. It's just within your household. I'm multitasking when I'm out here running around acting crazy and doing these things. It's just I'm doing it also in my family, but my wife is usually the one that takes the lead in that. But that same skill set is being brought out into, I guess we can call it the corporate world, if you will. So parents have those skill sets. If anything, I think you're at an advantage more than anyone else that doesn't have the ability to do that, because it naturally kicks in. Like, you don't think about it. You just, all right, here's lunches, here's things, let's go, let's keep it moving. If you could take that same skill set and that same mentality and put it into any space that you want to do, whether it's on a football team, basketball team, corporate world, if you have that mentality, I think we all have this inner lion in us.
I think that's where I sell myself short, and other parents maybe do too, because when you ask me for a particular skill, what skill do I have, you can't really put it into words, because it's kind of like you said, it's what you have to do. If I don't do it, nothing's going to get done.
Right.
So maybe I do sell myself short because I don't see it in the grand scale.
And things are not perfect. As much as we say we're multitasking and doing A, B, C, D, and E, things fall through the cracks. And I had that happen to me last night. I was going through old emails, like I mentioned this, and I got a contact from a brewer in Pennsylvania. I was supposed to email him on September 28th to give him a date to come on the show. I just forgot to do it. I get a ton of emails, as we all do, during the day, and if you don't answer them right at the time, or have an answer for them,
right,
you tend to let it fall through the cracks, and I did that. I responded to him early in the day, and I said, I'll get back to you at night, and didn't do that. So I really apologize to the person, but I haven't heard from him since.
Yeah. I think that's a very valid point in terms of opportunities, too. I try to respond to everybody in every email that I get, even if it's just I'll get back to you type of a response to the email, because you never know where that opportunity is going to take you. A lot of us are busy. We do forget. Accidents do happen. But a lot of us also will say that I'm not going to do this because I don't believe that I'm good enough for that thing, or it's not the opportunity for me. And I don't know if you know that unless you're in it. Like, you can always back out. You can always say no. So I always respond. I always will say, all right, let's give this a shot, or at least tweak it a little bit. And that's kind of how we got with the nonprofit to become an international thing. It was just like, all right, we saw a space, an opportunity. Someone had asked it was a client from Guam, had asked to be inside our film festival, and we had one from South Africa. And at the time, it was like, I responded back to it, and it was like, I don't know if we're ready organizational-wise for it, but why not? Let's just try it, kind of like you did with the podcast, just jump in and see what happened. And now, because of that, we're in all these different countries, and it kind of exploded.
And that's good. That's a good point. I want you to maybe address that for me. Let me go to the other side of the mic for a second here and kind of interview you. But you just secured Belgium,
right?
Right now, are you at the point where people are reaching out to you? Correct.
Yes. That process actually started 3 years ago. It was a school in South Africa had asked to be in the competition, and I just knew from an organizational standpoint we just weren't ready for that yet. We had some other things that we need to work out for it, but I responded back to that email and we were kind of keeping them at back. Maybe next year. We didn't say no, but then once we had the contact in Guam who also had these other contacts. So it kind of was like, all right, let's just see if we put them in there. And then all of a sudden this thing explodes up. So we've always got requests every year. It's just a matter of, can we handle it? Does it fit into our corporate value system? Is this the space that we want to go into? So kind of like you, we're at the point now we're not asking people, they're asking us. We finally made that tipping point.
We did the right thing, because the biggest mistake you could have made was to accept all these offers and not be prepared to handle them properly.
Glad you said that, because we're going to jump ahead a little bit, but the next one was talking about being ready for your opportunity. It's one thing to go out and seek it, but I think it is also important to be ready for any opportunity. And it kind of goes in with your tool set and the things, your skill set and everything else. So I'm always trying to be ahead of where I am. So what's the next skill set can I develop? Am I ready? Is my family ready? Am I personally ready to attack any opportunity that comes? So I can make that decision, yes now, or maybe not right now, because personally I'm not ready. I think a lot of us in our lives want things to happen and we want to be successful, but we're not really ready for that to happen. Even on a relationship level, I know I keep bringing back relationships because it's one of my favorite topics to talk about, but we want that significant other, that perfect person, when we're not that ourselves, and we're not ready to be able to handle that and to be able to address that. So let's just talk about, Gary, your career. At that point, did you feel like you were 100% ready for the I guess, let's leave education aside, but the entertainment world? Or was it one of those things where, like, let me just try this and just see where it kind of goes? Or you feel like you were personally ready for it?
I guess the biggest impact on what I'm doing now occurred maybe 8 years ago, when within 6 months of one another, I was offered a book deal and a slot on History Channel. Now, the guest spot I did on History Channel came from a former student who is a psychologist and was a consultant for the show Hoarders. I think we've probably all seen Hoarders, people who have magazines going back to 1908, you know, right? That. And wow, I mean, I was intimidated a bit by it. You know, can I do this? But History Channel, the production people steered me through everything. They sent me extensive notes, treated me like gold, and to be honest with you, maybe the most stressful time of this professional career was the actual taping, where I was in front of a camera in a hot studio, unair-conditioned studio in Brooklyn, New York.
Kind of like this.
Second floor. It was much hotter in Brooklyn. It was the middle of July, and under those hot lights, and was questioned for about 90 minutes nonstop, which was edited down to 6 minutes of airtime. So I mean, I felt like I was on the cross-examination stand with all the questions, but they had steered me in the direction that they wanted me to go, so I felt uber prepared for it, and I did it, and I felt so good about myself afterward that I felt I could do anything at this point.
Very interesting point.
So my thing now is I would rather aim high and miss than aim low and hit.
That's what I said the last podcast, I do believe, about, I talked about grades and things, and I'm kind of the same way. Like, to me, I want to shoot super duper high. Exactly. If you miss, you're still going to be, you know, you're not going to be at the bottom, you know, you're going to be somewhere. You might hit your target. So I'm always a big dreamer. Like, this, to me, this podcast is just a stepping stone to something greater, and some great things are going to happen. I do have a vision for it, but I'm not going to share it yet. Because I
share it with me.
I don't want. The reason I'm not sharing it with you because I don't want to scare you yet. So it's coming though. But being ready is a key in terms of being ready to seize any opportunity. You may not feel like you're personally ready, but I think that inner lion that we talked about earlier kind of kicks in, and that having that mentality of I have to do this helps tremendously when it comes to those opportunities. And what you'll find in life is once you've done that, the floodgates opportunities are going to start opening up. And then you're going to get to that point where people are asking you to do things, and you're going to get to that point where you're going to have to make that decision. Can I maneuver in that space or not? Which is really important. I want to go back because I believe that failure also brings in opportunity. And people are afraid to fail and afraid to do certain things. But I think some of my biggest failures in my life have opened up so many opportunities for me. So I kind of want both of you guys to think about a failure. It doesn't have to be super big, but a failure that you eventually learned something from and kind of seized on an opportunity. So I'm gonna start with you, Stacey, because you look
Good.
around like.
Well, I had,
Good.
I already mentioned I did a couple of the work from home things, and I didn't really put in the work because I didn't have the passion for it. But I thought it would work if I half-assed it, which didn't work. But from that is where I really started to learn about personal development, because I think before I started doing those opportunities, I really didn't know what that was. Like, I thought the self-help section was like the section you didn't want to be seen at in Barnes & Noble because people would be staring at you
Right.
like, ooh, we want to stay away from her. But I found that those books and stuff like that are very helpful, and they have started making things click in my brain, like you said, like, I can aim higher than this, and I can do more than this, and I'm not still aiming maybe at the top, but I'm definitely aiming higher than I was a
Right.
long time ago.
Right.
So those failures did propel me into bettering myself and changing the way I think about things.
My failures have opened opportunities for me to meet people, and I think that's where my opportunities started to grow, because me and my wife had a photography business where we were doing weddings and things of that nature, and it kind of just my heart wasn't in it, and I kind of failed at it, and the product wasn't great. But in that, I met so many different people and doing different spaces, and that I was able to make contacts and then go into a little bit more into TV, working at ESPN, working at ABC. Even that experience to me was somewhat of a failure because I didn't go as high as I wanted to go within that industry, but I developed certain skills in that arena. I met certain people, and it's kind of getting me to this journey to where I am right now. So I've failed a whole lot. Me and my brothers had tried to start other businesses with electronics and coding and stuff, and just failed. And my wife was like, "You're always trying to do something, and it's just not working out." Yes, the business did not go the way we wanted to go, but I learned so much from that situation. Now I'm applying those things to the nonprofit, trying to apply those things to the Empowerment Perspective Group. So to me, failure opens up opportunity. So I don't mind failing. To me, failure is not trying. That's failing. So you go in there, you try, and if it may not end up the way you want it, there's a lesson that can be learned in there, and you can just need to explore those opportunities.
I think I was on the cusp of failing as a teacher before I started in DHT. I was teaching math. Boy, this is true confession time, isn't it?
Yes, I love it.
Damiso, what you're doing to
I
me?
love it.
I'm opening
It's
up.
truth serum in that water.
It's more than just H2O. I'll tell you that. But I felt I'd gone as far as I could as a math teacher. I was teaching math at a very small school in Cumberland County. I don't know, circa 1980, 81, I guess. And you'll laugh at this. One day, I guess it was a grant. The school got one solitary computer. It was a Radio Shack TRS-80. We used to call them Trash 80s. Remember that?
Wow.
Now, what do you do in 1980 with a computer with its little black and white monitor? Any programming that was done, it was saved on cassette tape back then. And there weren't
So the
programs.
floppy disk wasn't even invented at this point.
It was all tape. So they put this thing in the main office, and it sat there for a couple of months. It was the tail end of the school year, and I finally went up to the principal. I said, "What are you going to do with this computer? It's gathering space, and no one's using it." And he goes, "I really don't know." I said, "Look, if you want to free my schedule up, if you can somehow free my schedule up for consecutive periods, I'll tackle it." And they did that for the next school year, where after lunch I had no classes, but I was assigned to that computer to just try to learn the computer. So I started to teach myself the programming language called BASIC. I don't know. Hey, we're going back. We're going back, exactly. And I fell in love with it. So the next step was, all right, now that I'm developing an interest and a love for it, where do I take this? So I contacted a friend of mine. I used to play semi-pro baseball. And I contacted a friend of mine who was in a new industry called computer consulting for businesses that wanted to get into computers. Called him. The fellow since passed on, and I miss him because he was so dear to me. And I said, "What do I do? What's the next step?" I said, "Should I go to one of these adult schools at night and get a quick fix, 6 months, and learn, and then be able to go out and teach it?" He goes, "Gary, it's not the answer." He goes, "Go back to college." Well, you know what? I'd gotten my degree. I had a degree in poli-sci. I just gotten a teaching certificate. And to hear someone say, "Go back to college," was not the answer that I wanted. But it was the right answer. So I ended up going back to Glassboro. It'll never be Rowan. It's always going to be Glassboro.
Glassboro State.
Glassboro State, right. It was Glassboro State Teachers College.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up getting the certificate in data processing, which took me, of course, several years. And that opened doors for me.
Wow.
So where I felt myself really, just fusing out in terms of being a classroom teacher, being able to get involved in new technology and bring that to students. and to schools was just life-changing for me.
Now, I think we're in a different age and time, because technology is...
You and I are in a different age and time, I know that.
Technology is way, way more advanced, and I'm coming from the space of a lot of people are waiting to be validated. Like, they feel like they have to go to school to get this certificate and have to get this, degree in order before they can go do this. And I tell kids all the time, like, if you want to be, especially middle school kids right now, if you want to own a business, what's your business? I want to be a photographer. Start right now. Like, why are you waiting for someone to validate that, yes, you are now a business owner, you can go out and do these things? We live in a time right now where anyone can do almost anything that they want right now. So if our audience is listening to this, I will say just jump in and dive in. If that's what you want to go do it. Now, there's certain professions you have to be certified, like a doctor, a teacher, and things. I get all that. But there's a lot of professions where you just need to go out there and get it. Which brings us to the next point is, my philosophy is that you have to currently live like you're already at that next level. So in my brain, right now I'm an assistant principal. In my brain, I'm a principal. So I'm going to move and shake and do things that principals would do. And at some level, the assistant superintendent would do. So in my brain, where I am right now is just a moment in time. Even with this podcast, it's just a moment in time. Again, I have a vision. I'm not sharing that yet with Stacey. But in my brain, we're already there. We're already in front of thousands of people and thousands of people doing something. So I would encourage everyone to start living as if you are past that. A lot of us are not happy in our current careers and lives and positions because you feel like we're better than this thing. But I feel like you have to start living like you're at that next level. And that's how you're going to start to get to that next level. Share a quick story that I heard from Russell Simmons. I think it was in his book, Super Rich. But he shared a story about a guy. He wanted to be in television industry. He wanted to make movies. He lived in New York, and he wanted a handout. And Russell Simmons was like, I'm not giving you a handout. You want to figure out, I'll teach you how to get to that particular point. I'm not going to give you a handout. He said, you want to make movies, you got to go where people make movies. So he went to LA, got his money, and got into the bus, went out there and started working actually at an ice cream stand. He said, when you get out there, I want you to treat that job like you already, the movie producer. And I want you to treat everybody and do that job 100%. So he's out there, with the ice cream, with the happiest service and all those things of that nature. Someone comes in who owns a clothing store and said, I like your attitude, I like your energy, come work for me. So he goes to the clothing store, same attitude, same energy. He's always thinking that I'm going to be this film producer. Someone comes in there, says, you know what, I like your style, what you wear, I want you to come to this party. Goes to the party, and there's all these film execs there. So he goes in the party with the same attitude and the same thing, like I'm already at the next level. And that's how he was able to work himself back all the way up to become a great film producer, director. Russell Simmons didn't tell me his name in the book, but it's in that book. But it's living like you're already in tomorrow, already in that space. So one of the things that I can encourage our listeners to do is just stop pretending like this is the final destination. Like tomorrow there's going to be something else. So Stacey, get ready. This podcast is not the final destination.
I didn't think it was.
It's going to that next level.
That's a great story. It really is.
And I kind of, rushed through it a little bit, but that mentality is
That's
huge.
fantastic.
It is, but I think it is hard for people to get out of the way they've been living. It's hard to think that if you're feeling like you're at a rock bottom or a low point, how do you flip your mind to think, I'm not in that low point anymore? I'm doing it's hard to make that switch.
But if you stay there mentally, that's where you're going to stay. You know what I mean? If you're gonna have that mentality that I'm at rock bottom and this is it, and this is the only thing that it's ever going to be, that you'll never ever get to that next level. Through my book, I talk about my personal life, and when I was in that situation, that life or death situation for me, I still had that vision of tomorrow. Like, I know this is not the final destination for me. If I would have stayed there, I just would have accepted it. I probably still would have been living in the same situation, being abused. I probably would have turned into an abuser myself, because that's just part of the process for a lot of people. So getting that mentality out of it is huge. That vision board plays a big piece in it, and that mindset. These transitions are working lovely today, because the next segment that we're talking about is how negativity blinds your opportunity. That negative thinking won't allow you to recognize opportunities that are out there. So if one or both of you can take us to a particular point in time where you just had that negative outlook, and it was like, and there were opportunities that you've missed, if anyone can shed some light on missed opportunities.
Yeah, I can. And this goes back to when I was 16. I can't believe he's got me telling stories of my life.
Yes.
We should have you on a couch next time.
Yeah, I
A
know,
leather
exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna go sit in that couch. I can't believe it. And I missed this opportunity, and I still think about it. 16 years old, but I could play some baseball. I was a left-handed pitcher, and I brought it up there in a hurry. And I had the opportunity to sign a contract with the Detroit Tigers.
Wow.
But there was no bonus attached to it.
Hmm.
Now, if you sign as a right-handed pitcher for the Detroit Tigers and you get a bonus of $500,000, and Gary Monterosso signs a left-handed pitcher getting zero bonus, and there's an issue, and maybe I get injured, you get injured, who gets cut first? Well, Monterosso does because there's no money invested in him.
Yeah.
But I could have had the opportunity, I could have had that chance.
Wow.
Right? Now, it's not just on me, it's not on my dad. My dad said, not a good idea, don't do this. You're going to be cut, you'll be the first one to go. And he's right, he was right. But you always wonder, what if? What if I didn't hurt my arm? I, in fact, did hurt my arm later.
Right.
But I brought it up there in a hurry, D. I could throw.
Wow.
I was age 16.
I did not know that about you.
Guys who I grew up with, I mean, if you look at some of my Facebook contacts,
Yeah.
we're talking about baseball
That's awesome.
and going back to the old days and how
Yeah.
we could play and so on. And so many of the people that I played with back then signed.
Wow.
Larry Milbourne with the Astros, Yankees, and Phillies, was part of our group. A guy named Mike Favaretto signed with Philadelphia.
Huh.
Yeah, several people from my era. There was some good baseball played back then.
I kind of feel the same way because I played college football
With
at
your
Temple
football, right,
for
there
a
you
little
go.
bit, and then I quit. And then now looking back at it, I have friends that have gone off to the NFL or at least had opportunities to play, and try out for those teams. So I try to not live my life with any regrets, but that's the one thing that I was like, I wish I would have finished doing. And I kind of am envious of my friends that, finished and did those things. But I made that decision because for academic reasons, but that I feel the same situation. Like, what if I would have stayed
What
in
if?
there? I could have.
Think about it every night. I swear to God I do. I think about it every night. When I go to bed at night, and I pray, and because of the heart surgery, and again, I feel like I'm on a soapbox, and I apologize. I don't pray for things. I pray to give thanks.
Right.
And I ask for health, for myself, for my friends, for my family, because you could have $20 million, man, but if you don't have the health, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Wow.
But you go back and then you think about your parents and the positive influence that they had in my life, how much they and my grandparents meant to me. And playing ball with my dad in the yard, he mapped out a whole plan for me come February, how we would lob. He would give me a softball to lob because you would get the feel of a bigger ball. When you picked up a baseball, it felt like a golf ball.
Wow.
And we mapped out a plan from February through the spring because I think he saw talent in it.
Right.
And then that led to thinking about my career playing ball. And I played till I was 30, semi-pro ball.
Wow. That's
Had a
very
ball doing it.
interesting.
It was fun doing it, but you just always think, what if?
We have a professional athlete on our show today.
No. A pseudo-professional athlete.
But you bring up something that brings me to my next point about opportunities. It won't last forever. And I posted something on today's lesson on Facebook about milk and how we go shopping, right? And then we go in there and we look for the expiration date. We kind of I want the one all the way in the back because it's the expiration date is a little bit farther away.
I'm not the only one that does that. I actually I'm the weirdo pulling them all out all the time.
So I shuffle them around on purpose so that I don't really do that.
He's the guy doing that when I go shopping. That's why I'm always buying the old stuff.
But at some point, that milk is going to expire, and I feel like opportunity is the same way. And you get presented with opportunities. It's important, one, to be ready, but also important to jump on those opportunities because if you don't, it's not going to be there forever. And I think a lot of people are waiting again for that perfect scenario, or they feel like I'm not ready to make that jump. But that opportunity is not going to be there forever. That expiration is going to go away. Kind of like when I look at me playing Temple and playing football, like that opportunity was there. I can't go back. I can't, go play college football again, even though I got like 3 years of eligibility left, but I'm 40 years old. That's not going to happen. But those opportunities are not going to be there forever. We're not looking to the nonprofit thing and the international thing, that situation with Guam that opened up. They would have found another film festival at some point in time. So recognizing your opportunities, also jumping on them while you have that opportunity to jump on them. Is also important. So it won't last forever. The next point I wanted to get to is pay attention and find what's in your lane. Goes back to your skill set and the things that you have. And I preach this all the time. Kind of stay in your lane. And I think once you find your gift in life, it's easier to do that. I'm not an engineer. My brother's an engineer. That's not my lane. Even though I could probably sit down. I think I'm smarter than him. I hope he's listening to this. But I think I can sit down and figure out how to do some certain things as far as what engineers do. But that's not my lane. So a lot of people, I think, are going it about life and careers and things and stuff that they're not meant to do. And they're just kind of fighting it because either their parents want them to do it or their husband or wife wanted them to do it. And that is just not your lane. And the way that you feel that way or how you recognize it, it feels uncomfortable. You hate going to work every day. You don't like what you do. It's hard to do what you do because your heart's not in it. I think it's important for people to be able to stay in your lane.
Let's talk about education for a moment as it comes to that. So you have a teacher, for example, who's been in his or her district for 10 years, is well established, has tenure, which is so important. And they may go to work every day saying, God, I hate what I'm doing, but look at the money I'm making, look at the security that I have. I mean, we've all seen that, and I was there. I'll say that to you. I was there in the 1980s.
Right.
No question about that. But
it's definitely a scary process. I even went through that in television. The money that I was making, the position that I had, but it felt so uncomfortable to me. And I was like, this is not my lane. This is not where I'm supposed to be. Yes, I'm going to take this massive pay cut when I go into education and only make $35,000 a year. Thank God I didn't have any children at the time because I don't know how I would be able to provide for them. But I just knew it didn't feel right. And then I finally got into a space where it felt right. And then kind of, things started happening and other opportunities started happening. So, Stacey, when you talk about those opportunities that you had in terms of the work from home, things of that nature, I think part of that wasn't your lane.
It was definitely not my lane at all. And what I've noticed, and I'm not trying to throw shade on that whole industry, but it doesn't seem like it's a lot of people's lanes. I've made friends on Facebook with certain people that I was involved with, and to watch them jump from opportunity to opportunity, they don't stay with anything long. And I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel like me trying to sell or push some lifestyle on you. If I'm not living that lifestyle myself, I can't honestly try to sell it to anybody else. And I feel some of those people, if I jumped from opportunity to opportunity, I would have lose all credibility. And that's what I feel some of these people are like. And they still bring a ton of people on board, probably make good money right up front, and then they all move on to a different opportunity, and that person brings all those people with them. So I was kind of disenchanted with the whole thing, seeing what I've seen unfold. The only thing I really regret not finishing is college. I should have probably manned up and finished up, but I didn't.
But you still have the opportunity to do so.
I do. But now I don't know what I would even go for.
College. That's a good point, though. A lot of people
a lot of money to not know
what they're going for.
I'll go with your door number 2 that you're hiding from me over there. I think I'll bank you on that.
I was talking with one of the behind-the-scenes employees at our company, SNJ, today. A girl who recently graduated from college, and now she's involved in the social media, the part of the business. Basically, what she does is to monitor what people are posting about shows on the station, and she's monitoring for content and for content. But one thing I said to her, I asked her as I got to know her, I said, how long do you plan on staying with this if you can gauge this right now? So we're with the company maybe 6 months or so. And he said, well, I'd like to stay for a few years and then evaluate what my options may be. And I said, I think that's great because in the long run, people a lot of times look at resumes and look at the work that you've done, and they see every 2-3 months you go into a brand new job. Where's the stability? Now you're laughing on that, but you've seen it.
I've seen it. I'm laughing because I've interviewed hundreds of people, and I asked the same question, and I try to take a back seat because I feel like those people at the same time are trying to figure out what their lane is too. And I feel like they're part of the reasons why they're bouncing back and forth. One, they don't know what their gift is, and they're trying to find their lane. But as an educator and someone that hires educators, I do look at the consistency piece. Because I want to know how long you're going to stay with us, in the long run. But also, is there consistency at least in the types of jobs that you're doing? I don't mind you bouncing around because if you've been a teacher and we started at a charter school, it just wasn't the right fit for you, and you bounced and did those things. At least it's kind of in the same industry. I had people that went from banking to restaurants to trying to be teachers, or studied psychology and then wanted to be a teacher, or studied engineering and wanted to be a teacher. And I'm questioning, like, all right, do I trust you around?
So is that that's a red flag when you see that?
That's a red flag for me. Just in terms of, again, that's not necessarily the bouncing around, but is it a consistency in terms of, or at least do I see a progression? Now, people ask that all the time of me. You went from TV to education. Like, it's, as far as I'm concerned, there's a consistency, the stuff that I was doing outside of TV. So you look at my volunteer experiences, you looked at the fact that I've substituted from pre-K all the way up, and the coaching, like, there was always a lane of service underneath of all of that. And then the TV thing, I just, to be honest with you, I picked it because I wanted to be different than my brothers. So the one actually was a teacher, and I was a radio host actually, and the other one's an engineer. And I was like, well, I don't want to be like either one of them, because I don't want to live, I'm tired of living in your shoes. Let me just go find something else. So then TV kind of just appeared for me. So it wasn't like I had this dream to be. But again, when I was in that space, it was so uncomfortable because that was just not my gift that I needed to go back in. So to get back to your question, it is a red flag for me if it's not consistent, or at least there has to be something that leads you to that particular point. I was talking to another friend of mine, and who actually Dr. Stephanie Iglesias, who was on this podcast a couple episodes ago, and we started talking about her role in the organization and how I go about building a team. And I said, I don't really trust a lot of people to live, I guess, what my dream would be. So I also look for people that have common interests. I look for consistency, which is part of the reason why Stacey's here, because what she posted and her vision and things that she talks about fits what I believe this company is going to hopefully evolve into. So that consistency and that fit is important. The other piece that I look at is, are you the right person for this bus? Right? We talk about, I can't remember the author off the top of my head, but he talks about driving a bus. I think it might be Malcolm Gladwell too. Driving this bus. You got to have the right people on the bus, right people in the seats, the right person driving it. If you're not a fit for that bus, you're not going to get on that bus. You're not going to be able to be part of that company. You're not going to be successful there. So having that right fit is important as well. Let's move on. We're running out of time here a little bit. I can talk about this all day long. The one point that I wanted to drive, and it's kind of a constant theme that we talked about here, is this: when it comes to opportunity, don't be afraid to jump out the sky. Just let it happen. Go for it. You never know where you're going to land. I just live by the motto: either I'm going to fly or I'm going to hit the ground. So
in your kitchen. So
so that's what my motto is. I want to move into faith and humanity. Even though Gary, you took the cake earlier with your story, I don't know if I can top that. So I'm going to get a little bit more personal here and share somewhat of a story with you, at least my feelings towards you, Gary, when I first got into education. And you recognize, I recognize people that have, that deep soul and caring soul, and I kind of gravitate to those people. When I went into the school, I'm not going to say the name of the school, at first, it was an intimidation factor. I'm a new assistant principal, don't know what I'm doing type thing, and just kind of jumping out the sky. And I was looking for people to kind of gravitate to sort of show me the ropes, how the culture and climate of the school was. And then I saw you in there, and you were a computer teacher at the time, and then your personality and just your warmth and how you connect with people, it drew me in. But it drew me into the point where we became good friends. And the story, and hopefully I'm not going too far with this, I remember I was on vacation with my family, and I got a phone call from you, and you were on your way to the hospital at the time, and it tore me up so bad that I couldn't leave to be there with you at that particular time. So my faith in humanity story is just your ability to connect with people and how you are with people and your genuine love and respect for people is something that I try to carry, and it's something that you've taught me on a daily basis on how I go about dealing with people on a daily basis. So I thank you for that. I didn't mean to get too emotional, but I felt like I needed to share that story with you because I haven't had an opportunity to talk about.
More to me than you'll ever recognize, honestly. I'm touched. Thank you.
This is the first time that ever happened here. Gary Monterosso is a loss for words. Wow.
First and last, thank you. I told you another story. It was story time about when my daughter was on a field trip to Washington. You remember that story I told you?
No,
She was
yeah.
in 6th grade, and I went along as a parent, watching all the kids, and we're in a McDonald's in D.C. I think it was a 2-story McDonald's, a massive facility. And I didn't sit next to her and her friends because I don't want to be that type of dad, but close enough that I could watch her. And I happened to see a fella who, again, appeared in need. All right? And so the girls get done eating. Girls get up and leave. And all of a sudden, the man, obviously he'd seen that I was watching them and maybe watching him, walks up to me. And he said, "Sir, are you with those girls?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, and then he comes from behind him. He said, "Well, one of them left a camera there, and I want to give this to you." And in his other hand was a Bible. And I said to myself, and I think I told my wife and my daughter at the time, Jesus comes in many forms. I said, Jesus just spoke to me.
I do remember you telling me
You
the
remember
story.
that?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Wow.
So, and I guess what I learned from that, if I didn't already know it, and again, I'm a whole different creature than I was maybe 30, 40 years ago. Really am. I feel I'm much more compassionate than I was back then. Maybe because I sensed my own mortality about a year or so ago, but it's an evolution, let's face it. But I learned, maybe that's why I gave the food to the homeless guy. Don't prejudge anyone based on appearance. He had the raggedy clothes and he appeared homeless. And he probably was, maybe he wasn't, but he probably was. But just treat everyone the way they treat you.
Right.
And he was peaceful, and he came to me and he was honest.
Right.
Who am I to deny him? I said, this is Jesus.
Wow, that's
Don't be
deep.
a lesson.
That's really another episode on another podcast about how we treat people. But that's definitely, at least the way I live my life, I try to just treat people, again, how they treat me, but more so based upon the circumstances and not necessarily trying to prejudge anybody and just trying to see what circumstances they are in and how can I help them and how can I learn from them as well. So I don't want to put you on the spot. Faith in Humanity story or anything that you want to share in Faith in Humanity. That one was a little touching.
I can't top any of these. I can't top any of these. I'm not even going to try it.
Listen, I'll get one for you.
I'm older than both you guys, so I have more stories than I could tell you. So you're definitely forgiven on this one, Stacey. It's cool.
We're going to say that the Arizona Cardinals will have a Faith in Humanity story for the Eagles today, as I feel like they're going to give them the gift of losing, unfortunately. Hopefully the Cardinals will. We do have a Temple alum on that team playing linebacker. He's actually from Camden, right around the corner. So I'm rooting for the Cardinals for that reason, but also because I'm not an Eagles fan and I need them to lose. The last thing we want to talk about, Stacey, we want to talk about the fundraiser that we got coming up. Hopefully.
Yes, we are going to set up a GoFundMe account to try to raise some money to help some local families in need for the holiday season. And we figured the earlier we can get it out, maybe the more good we can do. Because when I try to do some charity work towards the holidays, I'm on a tight budget at that point. So we definitely want to get this out and maybe get with some local churches or schools and see where we can do some good for some families that are struggling.
What's our goal?
Are we telling it on this?
We're gonna reveal it right now.
We're gonna go big because when I was typing it up, I started kind of small. And I was like, Damiso is not going to go with this. He's going to say, Stacey, you're too small. Again, you're thinking too small. So we're setting it at $2,500.
$2,500, and we're trying to feed people during Thanksgiving season as well as the Christmas season as well, right? So we're going to do a fundraiser coming up. Again, the empowerment perspective is about empowering people. We do recognize that there are people that are out there struggling or less fortunate than us, and we just want to help those people in the communities that we live in and beyond, and hopefully we can feed a lot of families. $2,500 will feed a lot of families for the holiday season. 100% of those proceeds will go directly to that. We do not keep any of that for the empowerment perspective. We will go out and buy the food, and we'll come up with a list. My wife said she can help with the shopping because I'm not a shopper.
I heard you were baking pies.
I can bake pies. Listen. We want to have a bake-off here? Is that what we're going to do?
No, I need my mom's help if I'm baking the pie.
But now we're going to try to raise that money. So be on the lookout for that. Information will come out more on it on the website soon. The next podcast will definitely pump it up, but we're shooting for $2,500 so that we can feed some families. And then on the back end of that, yes, we're going to hit your pockets again. We're going to do a fundraiser for pediatric cancer. So as many of you know, my nephew is a cancer survivor. He's currently, hopefully, finishing up his round of chemo. So I want to do something to honor him and those people and those families that are struggling with that, because it's something that is close to me and that has affected my family. So we're doing a lot of things here at the Empowerment Perspective podcast. So we just need your help, and we're asking for you to give a little bit and continue to listen. Any last thoughts, Mr. Monterosso?
I'm spent. I mean, this is true confessions for me. So, I mean, you brought stories out that I thought were hidden way back in the dark recesses of my mind. I didn't think I'd be sharing these with too many people, but now it's out there and I can't take it back. So it was very emotional for me, Each. I can tell you that, man.
I hope it was in a good way.
Oh yeah, all positive. There's no such thing as bad days in my life. Every day's a good day.
Awesome.
Every day's a good day.
Stacey, any last words?
Go Eagles. No.
That's it. No more podcasts. We're done. It's a wrap.
No, I'm good. I think this was a very empowering episode. I loved his stories, Gary's stories that he shared, and I think, you might be able to get him with a therapy bill on that. I don't know.
Huh. Well, I might have messed him up. I might not have helped him. I might have messed him up even more.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
I hope I like to think I'm in a different place than I was 20 years ago, and you're inspiring that you said you're still striving for more. I think that's fantastic, and you're following your dreams. So.
I'm not done yet.
I didn't think you are.
I had the surgery last year, but I said I'm not done. I have more I want to do.
One last plug for your show.
Thank
What's
you.
on tap?
What's on tap? You can catch it online, snjtoday.com. What's on tap?
All right, Gary, I definitely thank you for stopping by.
I'm honored to be invited. Thank you so much.
All right, and on behalf of Stacey and myself, we thank you guys for listening to this podcast about opportunity. If you didn't learn anything, please sharpen those skills and also go after your opportunities and recognize them, and don't be afraid to jump out the sky. This has been another episode of the Empowerment Podcast Perspective. Stay empowered.